I did not come here to eat fruit. A man should never refuse to taste a peach. He may never get the chance again. Life is...
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? What has Stannis refused?
Yes. This peach. Is this a metaphor?
Stannis Baratheon. For reasons you may not be able to put your finger on, you love him. We all do. And we understand him. Unlike some of the more deceitful, inscrutable, or obscure players of the Game of Thrones, Stannis is pretty straightforward. We might wonder how he's getting out of this or that jam, but we're confident that we know what kind of man he is and how he plays the game. Right? Stannis wants to be king. He's Robert's heir by rights and is devoted to pressing his claim in spite of insurmountable odds of success. He's just pathologically inflexible. A fanatic. Is he? I'm suspicious. If everyone else in the story is wrong about everything, why not the characters who've sized up Stannis for us? If all the other players are scheming and secretive, playing Syvass in more dimensions than we humble readers can manage, why not Stannis? Don't we all wonder if there could be something else going on? Don't we all sense that many things about Stannis just don't add up?
Stannis is a big mystery to me.
Is he stern and humorless, or cuttingly sarcastic? Is he intractably just, or pragmatic and forgiving? Is he forthright, candid, or mysterious and inscrutable? Is he pathologically inflexible, or does he react and adapt to changing circumstances? What if everyone in Westeros is wrong about Stannis? What if we're wrong about Stannis? Perhaps the first question we should ask is, why do we believe what we do about Stannis Baratheon? Well, we know he wants to sit the Iron Throne because he posted this very sentiment for all the realm to read. By right of birth and blood, I do this day lay claim to the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros, etc., etc. But why do we believe he's a pathologically inflexible fanatic devoted to justice and willing to sacrifice all for his hopeless cause? Well, mostly because the characters seem to believe this. In the prologue of A Clash of Kings, before we even meet Stannis himself, the first thing Davos says of him is, "My fingers will grow back before that man bends to sense." Immediately after we meet Stannis, his old armorer, Donal Noy, compares him to his brothers, telling Jon that while Robert was the true steel, Stannis is pure iron, black and hard and strong, yes, but brittle the way iron gets, adding, "He'll break before he bends." At their first meeting, Cat thinks of him, "This one will never bend." So he won't be doing any bending. His reputation for sternness and justice comes up a lot as well. Every time Davos reaches for his bag of bones, we're reminded of how Stannis took the fingers off a man he intended to raise to knighthood and his service. We're told out of this rigid commitment to justice. Shortly before we first meet the man ourselves, we learn from Cresson, the maester who raised him, that Stannis is strong, able, and just. Aye, just past the point of wisdom. Cresson also tells us Stannis never learned to soften his speech, to dissemble or flatter. He said what he thought. So we begin to figure we can take him at his word. But in another way, doesn't the question answer itself? Why do we believe he's a pathologically inflexible fanatic willing to sacrifice all for his hopeless cause? Wouldn't he have to be a fanatic to claim a throne he himself acknowledges he has no clear way to win? Isn't it all a bit circular? Our perceptions of Stannis and his plans seem to be built on two faulty foundations. First, the opinions and analysis of the often wrong heroes and characters of A Song of Ice and Fire, and second, on a need to explain his actions and motivations which would otherwise seem to make no sense. The answer which solves all the riddles is that he's irrational. Not bending to sense is simply in his character. So, who is he really, and how do we figure that out? Essentially, we're looking for motivation, a rational motivation, something which better explains his actions than simple fanaticism. Stannis is a proven military savant. He's intelligent, self-aware, even funny. Early in A Clash of Kings, we come to understand that Stannis knows he will be severely outmatched in any contest for the throne. He seems to clearly understand that he commands far too few bannermen on the few islands he's lord over, he's been able to hire too few sellswords and is already broke, and, importantly, no one likes him. A popular campaign for the throne is a dead letter. Then he decides to declare himself king anyway. We and the characters around him make sense of this in a number of ways. He feels slighted by his brother Renly's own declaration, much as he had felt slighted by Robert. His sense of justice and the immutability of the law lead him to conclude he has a duty to rule, and thus to prosecute his claim, whatever the cost. Or perhaps, by the time he sends his decree, he is already in the thrall of the Red Woman and her fire god and believes, with little evidence, that they will bring him victory by miracle. Whatever the case, the answer seems to be that he's some flavor of irrational fanatic. Without practical hope of victory, he is either so stubbornly committed as to knowingly set out toward his doom, or he's delusional, baselessly convinced of his eventual success. But he doesn't act like a fanatic there on Dragonstone when he decides to take on all comers. He seems to carefully weigh the dice before he casts them.
The Iron Throne is mine by rights, but how am I to take it? There are 4 kings in the realm, and 3 of them have more men and more gold than I do. I have ships, and I have her, the Red Woman.
To Davos, analogizing the admittedly radical choice to a childhood remembrance, he even justifies his fiery iconoclasty against the Seven and his adoption of the Red God on official letterhead in terms that sound like pragmatism. The Seven have never brought me so much as a sparrow. It's time I tried another hawk, Davos. A red hawk. The Proudwing story doesn't give Davos much of a hint as to what specific value his liege thinks R'hllor or Melisandre will bring to the cause, but it shows that Stannis wants Davos to know that he has his considered reasons, even if he's not prepared to fully divulge them. Even later, after crushing defeat on the Blackwater and a disastrous starvation march through the frozen north, he remains cool, level-headed, sardonic, and possibly a clever tactician. So is he pure iron, black, strong, and brittle? Has Stannis cracked? Or is he simply misunderstood? Is Stannis on a mad quest? Or is he merely happy for the realm, his counselors, and you and I to think so? Could Stannis have a secret motivation, one he's keeping from everybody, even Davos? A secret only the sharpest in the Seven Kingdoms share, our point-of-view heroes never among them. Some secret knowledge that would recast all of his strategic choices up to this point in a new and rational light. He certainly seems to share some secret with Renly. In A Clash of Kings, we witness the parley between Stannis and Renly through Kat's point of view, and our interpretation is naturally colored by hers. She hears stubborn, intransigent Stannis once again claim that the Iron Throne is his by rights, implicating his brother when he adds, "All those who deny that are my foes." She's no more encouraged when Renly demands Stannis bend his knee and swear allegiance. She scolds them both for not setting aside this petty childish squabble in favor of joining as brothers against their common enemy, the Lannisters.
Listen to yourselves. If you were sons of mine, I would bang your heads together and lock you in a bedchamber until you remembered that you were brothers.
But to be fair to the boys, whatever Catelyn, you heard me, may be feeling, they have come to make peace. Each brother ultimately offers a place of power and prosperity at their side if the other will kneel. But first, before those laurels are extended, Renly whips out that peach. Renly's hand slid inside his cloak. Stannis saw and reached at once for the hilt of his sword, but before he could draw steel, his brother produced a peach.
Would you like one, brother?
Renly asked, smiling.
From Highgarden. You've never tasted anything so sweet, I promise you.
He took a bite. The juice ran from the corner of his mouth.
I did not come here to eat fruit.
Stannis was fuming.
My lords, we ought to be hammering out the terms of an alliance, not trading taunts. A man should never refuse to taste a peach,
Renly said as he tossed the stone away.
You may never get the chance again.
Life is short, Stannis. Readers and analysts alike have seemingly given up, as Katsune did, on making any real sense of this first offer. That's first of 3 total. It's Renly's first of 2 offers to Stannis. Stannis only makes the 1 offer at this meeting.
The peach represents, well, it's pleasure. It's tasting the juices of life. Stannis is a very martial man, concerned with his duty, and with that peach, Renly says, smell the roses, because Stannis is always concerned with his duty and honor and what he should be doing, and he never really stops to taste the fruit.
Martin's comments seem to have settled the matter for many. It's just a flight of fancy, one character making a statement about another to illustrate something about himself. That's just what he would say. Nice and vague, and true, no doubt, to a point. But we shouldn't let the author of the ongoing mystery we're reading so easily throw us off the scent of something more specific on offer here, which Renly is asking Stannis to enjoy. This is a strikingly weird scene, a bizarre and memorable event which, upon first pass, I suspect most readers assume has some more relevant meaning. Stannis later confesses his suspicions of the same, asking Davos, when he spoke of how sweet the peach was, did his words have some hidden meaning? And claiming, I swear I will go to my grave thinking of my brother's peach. It's that important. Now think back. When you first read it, as I did for the first time late in 2022, what did you think about it? What improbable notions crossed your mind? What secret might Stannis and Renly share with each other, but not with their retainers at the Parley? What offer could Renly be making, couched in metaphor, that he can't say more plainly? This must be a big secret, the one that motivates Stannis. Something which has shaped his strategic thinking from the beginning. It could be an ace up his sleeve, something which he knows will eventually tip the war in his favor if he holds out long enough, though he hasn't played it yet. There's a second possibility, which I think is more likely. Stannis' secret spells his near certain doom. Stannis knows something which has him convinced that if he does nothing, if he accedes to the Lannister bastard as king and tries to hold on to what power he has on Dragonstone, he's a dead man, along with his family. This being the case, taking shot after long, desperate shot might make a lot more sense. It might all be part of a plan that is preferable to waiting around to be murdered. If we're to figure out what doom Stannis knows he's facing, what sinister portent is so influencing his political thinking, we should consider the state of political Westeros and in particular the Baratheon dynasty. In the early chapters of A Game of Thrones, our heroes give us the impression that Robert's Rebellion is a bygone time from which the realm has recovered and settled into complacent tranquility. In Eddard I, when Robert's party arrives at Winterfell, Ned recalls that he had last seen the king 9 years before, when the stag and the direwolf had joined to end the pretensions of the self-proclaimed king of the Iron Islands. The impression given is that such that there was any instability after the ouster of the Targaryens, it was made short work of, and there has been peace ever since. Later in the same chapter, Ned and Robert discuss filling the positions left vacant by the death of Jon Arryn, Warden of the East and Hand of the King. In both cases, Robert's arguments suggest he actually is concerned for the stability of his throne and even the possibility of war.
A 6-year-old boy is no war leader,
he says of Ned's counsel regarding the young Erin taking his father's place as warden. When offering the handship to Ned, he says,
I'm planning to make you run the kingdom and fight the wars.
Of course, the seriousness of this sentiment is immediately undermined as he continues,
while I eat and drink and wench myself into an early grave.
Even more so, it's the responses of our hero, the seemingly wise and honorable Ned, from which we, the reader, are primed to take cues. Ned brushes away Robert's military concerns as if he believes the future holds only peace. Later, his first instinct is to refuse the handship as if he perceives no particular danger to his friend Robert and sees it as merely an honor he can opt out of. In Eddard II, Robert makes clear his feelings about recent news of the only known living Targaryen heirs, saying,
There are still those in the Seven Kingdoms who call me usurper. Do you forget how many houses fought for Targaryen in the war? They bide their time now, but give them half a chance and they will murder me in my bed, and my sons with me. If the beggar king crosses with a Dothraki horde at his back, the traitors will join him."
Once again, Robert offers words of concern about the future of the Baratheon dynasty, and once again, Ned dismisses the issue, promising he will not cross. The overall impression left on the reader is that Robert's invocations of war are pro forma descriptions of the theoretical duties of the offices of warden and hand. His alarm over the Targaryen-Dothraki marriage is overdramatic. The details are just background exposition. Not only do we instinctively believe Ned in his assessment, we assume, perhaps unconsciously, that this must be the conventional wisdom in the land. We assume those who still call Robert usurper must not be considered a viable political formation by much of anyone. Everyone, including our heroes, believes Baratheon rule is here to stay. And in most stories, certainly most genre fiction, when the author delivers exposition, whether from a trusted character or an omniscient narrator, it's conventional to assume that this is correct information that the author wants the reader to know about the world of the story. That's practically the definition of a story. And in fantasy, which is all about an author describing to a reader the interesting and surprising original world they've devised, it would seem a necessary relationship. But for Martin, A Song of Ice and Fire is all about perspective. The story isn't told from so many points of view for mere variety, but also to control the release of information, to limit the reader's knowledge to merely some fraction of what a few points of view, our heroes, know or witness or believe. It's a way to tell a complex, fantastical story in an intricately original world without getting bogged down in the pitfalls of genre exposition, often by skipping it altogether. Our characters are allowed to be ignorant, confused, and even wrong. This opus is a meditation on ideology, the assumptions and priors about how the world works and why, which color our heroes' interpretation of events past and present before passing on to us. In short, when Ned suggests to us that Baratheon rule is here to stay, or that this is the dominant political wisdom in the realm, we need not take him at his word. Our hero is wrong. Robert was probably closer to the truth. We would do better to think of Robert's rebellion as itself an ongoing political project, and one on a dangerous footing at the start of our story. Plenty of the lords of the realm probably agreed that the Mad King had to go, but that doesn't mean they signed up for an end to the dynasty. The Targaryens ruled for near 300 years, having united the continent in the first place. Robert has only been king for 14 years. He's left much of the power structure of the Seven Kingdoms in place, merely severing and swapping the head, displacing the ruling dynasty for a new one without building any new institutions of his own. Stannis has tried his best to help Robert build a dynasty that could last, but it hasn't worked out. Now, with the revelations of the infidelity and incest of Robert's queen and the particularly queasy illegitimacy of his supposed heirs certain to come out eventually, Stannis knows the gig is up for Baratheon legitimacy going forward. But so what? Even if we, from pretty early on, are all predicting that Dany will one day return to challenge the usurpers for the throne, we are also convinced that no one in Westeros could possibly see this coming. To us, she's one of our heroes. To the Seven Kingdoms, she's the little sister of the Beggar King. An amazing sequence of astonishing turns and serendipitous reversals will have to take place before shy little Daenerys is any threat to the realm. After all, it's only shortly before Robert's death that the idea of assassinating Dany or Viserys is reevaluated after 15 years. How worried could they be? So as far as our heroes seem to understand, the war for the Iron Throne is a Baratheon Civil War. They can dispute each other's claims and even legitimate birth, but all three, Joffrey, Renly, and Stannis Baratheon, are claiming to rule as Baratheon kings, heirs to Robert and his rebellion. So what? So what if Stannis knows the Baratheon dynasty is on the rocks? It's an all-Baratheon game. A contest among weakened players. What's he so worried about? There's got to be more to this secret. The secret he shares with Renly. The secret at the heart of their major political disagreement. Okay, so what's the peach? Let's see. They're here to make peace and decide who will be king. They're fighting over Robert's claim and the Iron Throne. Then Renly offers Stannis something sweet, something he got and which can be given from Highgarden. Something a man should never refuse to taste, for he may never get the chance again. Could it be that simple? Could it be that first, most straightforward thought that must have crossed many a reader's mind, if briefly, when they first read it? Yes, Renly's first alternative offer, Renly's peach, is, of course, the Iron Throne itself. It's Renly's knee, it's the power of Highgarden, it's everything Renly thinks Stannis needs to surely win the crown and keep it. This is the Game of Thrones we're playing here. What's sweeter than being king? Renly seems to be enjoying it. Even so, he'd give it all up to Stannis. Wait, what? That doesn't make sense, I hear you saying. Isn't that what Stannis is asking for? Okay, let me rephrase. Renly will give it all up to Stannis on one condition. You can learn just what that condition is in Part 2 of Moonman's Stannis, That Peach, and the Battle of Wind, his master plan. Just follow the link. There's a lot more to get into, including more about the Peach Parley, Stannis' big strategic secret, and that Battle of Wind I'm forecasting. Can you guess where this is all going? Have you heard some of this before? I'd love to hear about it down below. So many answers are in Part 2, which is already out now. Thanks for watching. I'm Greg, aka Moonman, and you are probably not buying this. See you soon.